This is presently the most widely seen video concerned with Chinese Chuan paper manufacturing techniques in existence. It first appeared in 2008 at the Beijing Olympic opening ceremony. This video showcased to the world the Chinese people's unique understanding of culture. But few knew that the featured performers were craftsmen from Anhui's Jingshan Chuan paper factory. The Chuan paper industry's most prestigious paper factory is located in a small mountainous county. Jingshan County is in the north of the southern mountainous area of Anhui Province, which is enveloped by mountains and valleys where streams run endlessly. Jingshan County is the birthplace of Chinese Chuan paper. Wild plants grow exuberantly in Jingshan County. A special species of tree grows here called the Pterosaltus tataranaui tree, a subspecies of elm. The main material used in manufacturing Chuan paper is bark from Pterosaltus tataranaui. Other important materials used include local rice straw.
How is it commonly made? Chuan paper is made by intertwining two types of fibers. The long fiber is from Pterosaltus tataranaui bark. The short one is from long rice straws. Intertwining them creates Chuan paper.
The bark is the bone of Chuan paper. The more bark is used, the tougher the paper becomes. The rice straw is the flesh of Chuan paper. The more the straw, the tenderer the paper. Intertwining the bark and the straw furnishes both toughness and tenderness in Chuan paper. When manufacturing Chuan paper, besides Pterosaltus tataranaui bark and rice straw, there is another extremely important ingredient, the local streams. According to the Jingshan County Annals, kept at the Jingshan Archive, the Gankan area was said to produce Chuan paper of the best quality with gan water added into the recipe. The paper was pure and lustrous and lasted long, which made it famous both far and near. Gan water mentioned in the text is in fact local stream water. Over the last 700 years of dynastic rule, Jingshan County Chuan paper craftsmen have used Pterosaltus tataranaui bark, rice straw, and stream water to manufacture Chuan paper, which has served as a medium for numerous classic paintings and calligraphy works. Mr. Xing Chungrong is chief engineer of the Jingshan Chuan paper factory. His skills have also been recognized on the National Intangible Cultural Heritage List for his contributions to Chuan paper manufacturing. 40 years ago, 19-year-old Xing was recruited as an apprentice into the factory. From that time till present, he has dealt with Chuan paper on a daily basis. Xing Chunrong first became enthused about Chuan paper when he was introduced to China's 2006 time-honored brand title winner, Red Star Chuan paper. This type of Chuan paper is soft and tough in quality and clear in texture. Apart from calligraphy and painting, it is used also for mounting and rubbing, as well as in the preservation of ancient books and paintings. It is also won endorsement from men of letters. Red Star Chuan paper, which is manufactured using traditional methods, is always regarded as a monument of Chinese handmade paper. It was for this reason that the Beijing Olympic Committee chose to use the Jingshan Chuan paper factory for their short video. In fact, 40 years ago, when Xing Chunrong was only new to the factory, Red Star Chuan paper was already the factory's main product. At that time, there was a father and son team, the Caos, who were contributing a lot to the development of Red Star Chuan paper. The father soon passed away. The son, without any choice, gave up the craft which had been in the family for generations and returned to his hometown to work the land as a farmer. In the first year of Emperor Qinzong's reign, in order to offset wartime population loss, a southward migration push was encouraged. Cao Da's son, distant ancestor of the Cao family, sailed across the Wuhu Lake and arrived at Xiaoling Village in Dingjiaqiao Town, Jingxian County.
There is a feature in Xiaoling Village. In Xiaoling, there are 13 valleys, as we call them here. They are mountain valleys. Each valley is very deep, extending beyond 5 kilometers, sometimes even up to 10 kilometers. There is no available land for farming there.
Making their living from paper manufacturing became a practical choice for the Cao family who had settled down here. Since the end of the Song dynasty and the beginning of the Yuan, Cao family members have made their living from manufacturing Chuan paper. Almost all the paper manufacturers in Xiaoling Village were surnamed Cao. Local folklore describes Xiaoling Chuan paper as follows: light as a silkworm, white as snow. When shook, it feels like silky fabric. From as far back as the Qing dynasty, Chuan paper was used as royal paper by the imperial family. It was also a favorite of Emperor Qianlong, who was quite skilled at calligraphy and painting.
Chuan paper, both Shengxuan and Shuxuan, reached their pinnacle during Emperor Qianlong's reign. Thus, within the realm of the royal palaces, Chuan paper was used for writing, painting, and issuing imperial orders.
Amongst the Cao family in Xiaoling Village, one of the most renowned Chuan paper craftsmen is Cao Renjie. He is now 88 years old. Every morning, he pays a visit to his family's Chuan paper mill. When in a good mood, Cao Renjie will flex his muscles. From the age of 12 in the family paper mill, Cao started to learn the paper manufacturing craft from the elders within the family.
My grandfather, my father, they were both paper making and paper drying craftsmen. They taught me. I followed suit. After some practice, I learned the craft. So when workers were not available, I was asked to take over. If no one was there for the paper cutting, I would do that as well. Historically speaking, the Chuan paper manufacturing process was pioneered by Cai Lun. From the time Cai Lun invented this technique till now, in the realm of manual papermaking, Chuan's paper manufacturing process is still the most complex. It is also the most representative.
There are 108 procedures in the making of Chuan paper. Among them, the most amazing procedure is paper screening.
The screener, using a mesh, submerges the mesh into the solution and pushes it forward. The water simply suns off by itself. If you draw out the mesh, submerge it and draw it out again, it will not work. This piece will be too thick, while the next will be too thin.
During the screening of the fiber solution, the thickness of the paper is determined merely by the craftsman's hands and their accumulated experience. For a mature screener, the weight of 100 pieces of paper will not be more than 100 grams. From the Qing dynasty till right before the anti-Japanese war, Chuan paper manufactured in Jingxian County was at its peak. The Cao family even once manipulated the production and operation of Chuan paper in areas south of the Yangtze River.
At that time, my family owned a paper mill. It was founded by my grandfather. We had a store in Shanghai, in the French Concession, on Avenue Edward VII, number 2, Defu neighborhood, Jixiang Street, Taojinlong store.
What Cao Renjie described was the height of the Cao family's fortunes over the last millennium. At that time, the Chuan paper mill owned by his father Cao Yiqing continuously ran 24 hours a day. As a youngster, numerous times he had witnessed the raw yet bold manner of the paper-making craftsman.
workers who beat the fibre into pulp were all naked. There were big sacks used for cleaning the raw materials. Each sack was over 3 meters long. When a sack would tear, they simply wrapped it around their waist. During work, if they came out of the mill and saw people, they quickly covered themselves. But inside, there was no need for wrapping up. So it was, they did it naked.
Such hot working scenes accompanied Cao Renjie for over 20 years. In 1954, the government merged the private paper mills of Xiaoling village with the state-run Jingxian Chuan paper factory.
The Tao family became the main driving force. By using craftsmen from the Tao family, the public-private partnership was founded as the Jingxian Chuan paper factory.
Both Cao Renjie and his father, Cao Yiqing, were involved in the initial establishment of the Chuan paper factory. In the beginnings of this new era, they showed great enthusiasm. In a short time, the manufacture of the first batch of Chuan paper was completed. It was named Red Star, paying homage to the 5th National Day of the People's Republic of China.
My father was the best technician in the factory. He was masterful. In the 13th Valley area of Xiaoling village, he was quite a figure of paper making. When screening a stack of paper, he would seldom mess up, say 100 sheets. When he screened 100 sheets, he at least would make over 90 fine ones, 95 at least, while others might only make 70 to 80 out of 100. As a technician, he was unique. Not long after the merging of the private mills into the factory, he soon got promoted to production director.
Despite his stature as the best technician in the factory, Cao Yiqing soon fell from grace. In 1955, he was forced to leave the factory. In that same year, the Chuan papermaster, who quickly had nowhere to contribute his talents, left the world. The young Cao Renjie, for the first time, felt prospects for himself becoming unpredictable.
At that time, I was approaching 30 years old. I was quite capable and ambitious. Being a section chief, I was hoping one day I could become factory director. But all of a sudden, no one listened to you anymore.
Feeling wronged and acting rashly, Cao Renjie resigned from the factory. What he lost there with his job was his family's pride and his personal life at that age, the identity of a non-agricultural worker.
At that time, it was very difficult to register as a non-agricultural working family. We made great efforts to achieve that, but then I was forced to give it up. I suffered a lot.
Among all that he had lost, to Cao Renjie, the most heartbreaking thing was still the craftsmanship that had been passed down in the family for generations. Back home, Cao Renjie, who was still in his prime, tried out planting rice and working as an accountant for the local production team. But to Cao, these jobs were only for making a living.
I shed tears in secret at night, for I don't know how many days. I was not reconciled. I never wanted to do those jobs, but that was my only choice.
It was during that gloomy period Cao Renjie began smoking and became a heavy smoker.
As far back as I can remember, my father has smoked. I felt when he would be stressed or stuck in his thoughts, he would start to smoke more. He smoked heavily, one after another. Our family was poor then. When he couldn't afford to buy cigarettes, he would pick up cigarette butts from the ground and puff those. Our family condition was very poor at that time.
Chuan Rong today still maintains his habit of playing basketball. In the past, when he was stressed from work, he would come to the court and keep taking shots over and over again. This was his way of releasing pressure. In 1973, Chuan Rong was recruited into the Jingshan Chuan paper factory. But before that, growing up in eastern Anhui province, he had never even seen Chuan paper.
Frankly speaking, before I came to the Chuan paper factory, I had only heard of Chuan paper. But I had no idea what Chuan paper was like. Because our Chuan paper factory was located here. It was the 1970s back then. Chuan paper factory was moved here from the Xiaoling village.
At that time, almost all the technicians in the factory were of the surname Cao. The Chuan paper manufacturing techniques were also controlled by the Cao family.
Once inside the factory, you could safely address anyone as Cao, no matter you knew them or not. As a non-member of the Cao family, relatively speaking, working in the factory, I felt that we were of inferior status.
It's not hard to imagine the pressure Chuan Rong felt not belonging to the Cao family. Before long, however, Chuan Rong acknowledged his first tutor, Cao Yiben, a craftsman from Xiaoling village. Chuan Rong learned from him the basic processing procedures for Chuan paper. The preparation of fiber from Terraceltus tataranaui bark and rice straw, rolling up the processed Terraceltus tataranaui bark and rice straw, piling them up in a big pot, covering the material with sackcloth and spraying a layer of wood ash over the top before boiling the materials for 12 hours. Pickling and boiling the processed raw material with lime and alkaline water is an important procedure in the traditional craft. It helps accelerate the decomposition of the bark and the degumming of the rice straw and acts as a purifying process for the fiber. Moreover, it also helps prevent worms and slows down the acidification of the paper caused by air. This process prevents the Chuan paper from aging and deterioration. For these reasons, Chuan paper enjoys a reputation of being able to endure for thousands of years. The boiled material is then transported to stone fields. Rock fields used for airing Chuan paper should be chosen on hillsides that face the sun and evade wind. Surface soil is first shoveled off and then replaced by a layer of crushed stones of a depth of 20 centimeters. When the procedures are completed, the processed material is softened and whitened.
We were rather small and thin at that time. We used to carry processed material to the stone beach. We were not yet as tall as the bamboo crate, but I did not want myself to appear weaker than the others. So what did I do? I outdid the others when carrying crates. When they took a break, I didn't. I just kept on carrying. So if they carried their crate 5 steps, I would do it for 6 or even 7 steps. I would be more hard-working than them. It was because of this quality of enduring hardships and working hard that technicians of better physical strength and technical ability were willing to coach me.
For his hard work and diligence, Chuan Rong soon got accepted into the inner circle of the Cao family. He also gradually understood each of the procedures involved in Chuan paper manufacturing. Once the bark and the rice straw have been processed, it comes down to the fiber pounding procedure. Put the processed material into the hammering device. After pounding, the fiber will gradually get shorter.
See this one below? It is quite like the grinding gears of the mills, which used to be used in the rural areas. When ground by the flat surface from above, the gears have the function of breaking the bark fiber. It works to cut the fiber into chunks. Normally, to such an extent, when the fiber is pounded into strips, it is enough. Like this. Then they need to be folded, like this. Then this procedure is complete. During the bark pounding process, the fiber cannot be broken short enough. So then, we get to this stage where the bark fibers are cut further, to cut the fiber off. Then the bark material goes through the treading procedure in which it will be evenly treaded. Then it is done. You see this container here. It is in the shape of a cooking pot. The bottom is round. There you can see how the ancient Chuan paper craftsmen brought their wisdom into full play. What is the purpose of making this container appear as a cooking pot? You see, without much manual labor for turning over the material, simply by treading on one side, the material will be automatically turned in one direction in this round-shaped container, so the material can be treaded evenly.
In order for an apprentice to be proficient in all the manufacturing procedures of Chuan paper, one needs to be apprenticed for over 10 years. Whilst Xing Chunrong was learning the craft from the older generation Cao technicians, Cao Renjie, who had been working as a farmer for over 2 decades, now stepped into a new stage in his life. In the year 1978, China entered the era of reform and opening up. Also at this time, by asking around, the Yixing paper factory in Jiangsu province, which was hundreds of miles away, finally found Cao Renjie's whereabouts. They invited Cao to be the technical director of Chuan paper manufacturing.
I looked around. There were mountains and rivers, but the conditions were not as ideal as that of our hometown. It was enough, however, to manufacture Chuan paper. I would do it.
In merely half a year, Cao Renjie produced 5,000 pieces of Chuan paper. In his second year living in Jiangsu, the Nanjing Ministry of Light Industry issued a special approval for the Yixing paper factory.
The project was approved with a budget of 600,000 RMB. The whole factory was in high spirits. They called me Master Tao. They even assigned a car to take me to work and back. I enjoyed a good reputation there. Once he had moved to Yixing, the whole family was registered as non-agricultural workers. The whole family, 8 people, were assigned new jobs.
Just as Cao Renjie was ready to devote himself to Yixing, the party secretary of the Shaoling production team came all the way to Jiangsu to invite him back to his hometown to establish a new Chuan paper factory, the Shaoling Chuan Paper Factory.
They asked me to return to Xiaoling village, promised to arrange my family registration, and offered me good welfare. They positioned me as vice manager in charge of production. All these titles had been granted to me even before I came back. I would have gone anyway. Xiaoling is my hometown. What comes from the soil will return to the soil. My home is in Xiaoling. At last I was home.
However, in this small, overstaffed state-owned factory, Cao Renjie still failed to find a place to contribute his expertise. Entering his twilight years and observing that most of his lifetime had been wasted, Cao Renjie felt ever more depressed, so he smoked even more heavily.
When we smoked or drank and casually chatted, I would feel that he carried something unspeakable in his heart.
At the Jingxian Chuan paper factory, the Chuan paper manufacturing techniques that Chuan learned from master craftsmen included altogether 108 procedures. When the Terracelta's Tataranawi bark and rice straw had been beaten into pulp and poured into the trough, the next important manufacturing procedure begins: the screening. For this procedure, a special bamboo screen is used.
The manufacture of Chuan paper actually sets a high standard for the manufacture of bamboo screens. The bamboo is the bitter bamboo that grows deep in the local mountains. Why do we use this particular bitter bamboo variety? Because the bitter bamboo joint is long, without scabs. As long as the scabs don't exist, the bamboo curtain splits made of them can be level and neat.
Tools used to make Chuan paper should be carefully chosen. The paper tank should be made of blue flagstone in order to ensure the purity and temperature of the water. Drying the paper, though a seemingly simple step, demands sophisticated skills. Craftsmen must separate each paper from a pile and brush them onto heated walls. A few minutes later, the wet paper on the wall will be dried due to evaporation.
We paper drying workers share a saying: 4, 5, 6, we hold all. Cotton and embroidery. That is to say, our Chuan papers vary in size between 4 feet, 5 feet to 6 feet, with thinner ones called cotton even, and the thinnest called embroidery. The embroidery is extremely thin. Put it on your hand, you can see the lines of your palm. In the paper drying workshop, it is of great difficulty to hold these kinds of paper. Without these methods, the paper will tear and get destroyed just by a very slight move.
Chuan Rong's paper drying craft was acquired from the great paper drying master Cao Liren of Xiaoling village through oral instruction and on-site demonstration.
When cutting the paper, first we have to shovel them up. So what tools are we using to shovel? This. Look, press on and hold them with a finger, and use the frontal bar. Then they are up. Only when the paper is up can we begin cutting without breaking it. See it here, the imprint. We need to pat the paper slightly. What's the point of doing this? After this, the paper will get loose. Therefore, they don't cling to each other anymore. When we pull the paper, we have 3 lines. This is the first one. The second. The third. If these 3 lines are not kept, the papers may break. We use the jargon of short to describe such a situation, which means this paper might cling to the next one, or the next paper might cling to this one. If this happens, the dried paper becomes unqualified.
From 1984 to 1989, Chuan paper dried and manufactured by Chuan Rong received the National Quality Gold Award 6 times in a row. Xing Chunrong had also become the technical director of the factory. In 1987, 33-year-old Xing Chunrong took a job as production director at Jingshan Chuan Paper Factory. He was as good as the paper-making master Cao Yiqing then, in charge of all the production work at the factory. Also, this year, Cao Renjie, co-founder of the Jingshan Chuan Paper Factory and the Shaoling Chuan Paper Factory, retired. Since his retirement, he has taken charge of the technical guidance of the Chuan Paper Factory founded by his son. However, due to his old age, he has gradually secluded himself. His father didn't have the luxury to realize this aspiration. Due to the frustrations and difficulties of his life, his creativity and ambition largely wasted away like his father. There is always something that he feels reluctant to let go.
I started Chuan paper making when I was very young. I wanted to have it be my career and bring fortune to my family. I was thinking like this before.
However, with the older generations of paper-making craftsmen retiring and passing away, the prominent Cao craftsmen of the Jingshan Chuan Paper Factory are only few in number. The Cao family of Shaoling village, which has been renowned for more than 700 years and prospered in the Chuan paper-making industry for generations, is gradually disappearing in the market.
Making Chuan paper is really laborious, especially paper screening, drying, cutting and other steps. Therefore, it is understandable that after the founding of the PRC, particularly after the reform and opening up, the Caos were unwilling to carry on doing it. Nowadays, workers are mainly of old age, and young people prefer making money outside to learning this trade.
How can the time-honored Chuan paper survive and develop under such circumstances? This is a huge challenge confronting Xing Chunrong. To attract more attention to Jingshan Chuan paper, Xing developed the 7-meter-wide Millennium Chuan square paper to welcome in the coming millennium year. His creation was listed in the Guinness World Records. He remade the invaluable tribute paper used during the reign of Emperor Qianlong of the Qing dynasty, long thought to have had its production methods lost to history.
The tribute paper we are making now is an imitation of the paper used during the reign of Emperor Qianlong. This is the most expensive paper made by our factory, with a unit price of 12,900 RMB per set.
The bourgeoisie like to gather to read books or admire paintings in their spare time. Xing Chunrong has little interest in this. On these occasions, Xing prefers to sit in a corner and silently reflect on the feelings brought about by creating Chinese calligraphy on Chuan paper.
When you write on Chuan paper, it feels totally different from writing on other paper. On Chuan paper, the color of the ink shines and glitters. Chuan paper facilitates the writing process. The ink may float on other papers, but it is well absorbed by Chuan paper. Where the ink is dense, it feels quite thick and moist. The hollow strokes are also very great. Even if this is less dense, it is also quite brisk and clean. Look at this, with every line tidy and clear.
At present, the craftsmen who still make Chuan paper are mostly Xing Chunrong's disciples. In fact, many people outside the Cao family are learning and have learnt the craft of Chuan paper making in today's Jingshan County. They, together with the Caos of Shaoling village, are helping Chuan paper pass on from generation to generation. As for Jingshan County, Chuan papermaking hasn't declined along with the fortunes and misfortunes of one notable family. It has since become more widely learnt and accepted by more people. In an era when 99% of paper around the globe is made by machine, Chinese Chuan paper is being passed down through generations of craftsmen by means of the most ancient manual skills.